All right, the first thing that we have to understand, when the prospect says, this sounds great, it's a big decision, I really need to pray about it. The first thing we have to do, like any concern that you ever get, doesn't matter if it's money, think about it, need to talk with somebody else, my spouse, business partners, the board of directors, the man who lives in a van down by the river, my CPA, whatever objection is, we first have to clarify what the concern actually means and what's behind the concern, instead of just throwing off a rebuttal, because it might not be the concern you really thought it was, okay? Now this, like I said, this is an objection that I want to pray about it, that you will get if you sell most things in B2C, but you're also going to get this sometimes with a lot of B2B. Like two of the four industries I sold in, two of the four were in B2B. I sold industries where I was talking to CEOs, the Fortune 100,000 companies, some Fortune 500, maybe most Fortune 1,000 and S&B, department heads, and sometimes, not every day, but sometimes I would literally get, after I went through everything, we really need to pray about this. We're a big family here in the company. We really just need to set down the ownership and really pray on this, all right? So let's go through, I'm going to role play with myself how to respond to this. Prospect says, you know, Barry, we really appreciate your time. This is a really big decision for us, and we just really need to pray about it. Okay. Now, do you really think you're going to go pray and ask God right when you leave if they should purchase your product or service? 9 times out of 10, that's not the real concern. That's not a concern at all. Okay? It's like the I want to think it over concern. It's not like they sit there for 2 weeks and they think about it, right? They have a concern that they're not willing to tell you because they don't feel comfortable enough, so they're saying, I want to pray about it or I want to think it over. It's very similar. Now, there are some people, granted, that will literally go pray about it, and this is how you resolve it. So I'm going to show you how to do this, okay? You simply agree with them first. You don't say, well, yes, but we went over. That just triggers more sales resistance. You're done. You're done, okay? So the way to disarm the prospect when they say, this is a big decision for us, we really need to pray about it, say, yeah, Jane, that's not a problem, of course. Now, when you say you need to pray about it, what specific parts of what we've gone over do you feel you really need to pray about, Jane? Let me repeat what I just said, and then I'm going to show you what they're going to say, and I'm going to show you how to respond. And I'm going to show you why I said what I did. Yeah, that's not a problem, of course. Now, when you say pray about it, what specific parts of what we went over do you feel you really need to pray about? And see how I lean in and show empathy. What specific parts of what we've gone over do you feel like you really need to pray about? Even if I'm on the phone and they can't see me, I'm going to do the same thing, because that body language affects what? It affects your tonality. If you just sit here and like, that's not a problem. Now, when you say pray about it, what specific parts of what we went over do you feel like you really need to pray about, Joan? So you don't move. It affects your tone, okay? Yeah, that's not a problem. Now, and you lean in, you show empathy. When you say pray about it, what specific parts of what we've gone over do you feel like you really need to pray about? And you really emphasize it. You really need to pray about. Okay, you slow that down with your tone. That you really, what specific parts of what we went over do you feel like you really need to pray about? And every single time, you know what they're going to say? Well, we really need to pray because, and then they're going to tell you their concern. So let's say it's a money concern. What parts do you really feel like we need to pray about? Now, when you say what parts or what aspects of what we've gone over do you really need to pray about, then they feel more comfortable, right? They tell you their concern. Now you kind of know what the concern, you know how to address it, and you can close it. So let me role play in this situation. Prospect says, yeah, I mean, it's just a big decision. Like, we need to sit down and really pray about it because it's a lot of money and we're just not sure we have the budget for it. What the hell did you just find out? Excuse my French. You just found out that they have a money concern, that it's a lot of money and there's some uncertainty there. Okay, so now you know that it's a money concern, not a pray about it concern. That's not really a concern, okay? Now, what you're going to do at that point is you're going to help them overcome the money concern. Now, we don't have time to train on that. We train all of that in our virtual training courses. In fact, we have a new word for word. This is just one of our like 25 different training products. Word for word top 50 objection obliteration scripts and virtual training course just on objections now. It's a 4-hour training course just on the top. It's actually 52 objections. I put 2 extra in because I'm being nice. But it's word for word, every objection you've ever got. Just one of the 25 training programs. Okay, so we train all of that in those. I don't have time to go through the money concern right here. So let's say you help them resolve the money concern, okay? After you do that, you then have to come back and address the pray thing again, okay? So now that you've found out their real concern, by saying what specific, oh yeah, no, that's not a problem. What specific parts of what specific aspects of what we've gone over do you feel like you really need to pray about? Emphasize that, really need to pray about. And they're going to tell you, I really need to pray about it because we just don't know if we have the money. We just don't know if we have the time, whatever it is. Then you're going to resolve that, and then you're going to come back and say, now, let's come back to the praying about this. How do you feel, not think, how do you feel God would feel about you? And then you repeat back what they said they wanted. How do you feel God would feel about, now, you can't do this initially. You do what I said to do first. You have to set it up the right way. Then after you find out the real concern and help them resolve it, then you come back and say, now how do you feel God would feel about you? And then you repeat back what they said they wanted. Now let me give you 2 industry-specific examples. I'm going to give you one in B2C, and I'm going to give you one in B2B. Now, we train 158 different industries at this point, okay? According to Forbes, how many industries there are on planet Earth? 158. Did you know that? We train in all 100, there's subsets of each 158, and we train in all of those, okay? So I'm going to give you 2 different examples, one for B2C, one for B2B. So in this example, let's say if you sold life insurance, that would be B2C. And a couple says, we just need to think about it, we need to pray about it, and you go through what specific aspects of what we covered or what we went over do you really feel like you need to pray about? Not in that tonality, but the tonality I showed you. Well, and then they go over the budget thing, and then you come back and say, now how do you feel God would feel about you having the financial protection in place for your wife and kids, so when you do pass away, they're completely taken care of. No stress or worries like most people have if they don't have the right insurance in place. What do you think God would want you to do? See how I lowered my voice and leaned in? Okay? All right. Now, you're never, I can assure you, if you do that the way I showed you, you're never going to have somebody that comes back, nope, I don't think God would want me to do X and Y and Z. Okay? Just as an example. Now, let's say if you're in B2B sales, how would you relanguage that part right there? You do everything I said, that's not a problem. Now, as far as praying about it, what aspects of what we've covered the last few months do you feel like you and the firm really need to pray about? Okay, well, we don't know if we can get the budget or whatever it is. And you resolve that concern and then come back to how do you feel? So how do you feel God? And let's say in this example, let's say if you sold lead generation services to SMB companies, as an example, okay? Train lots of people in that space too, lots of companies in that space. So let's say, what would it sound like for B2B? It's a little bit different. How do you feel God? Oh, let me adjust the TikTok phone. We got some angry people over here. Got to give them a Snickers bar, guys. All right. So John, how do you feel? So let's say you're talking to a couple of decision makers. Let's say you're on Zoom or in the boardroom. How do you feel God would feel about you guys getting a higher quality lead to your sales teams so that you can really start scaling the company and be able to help far more prospects solve their problems?